Good day, everybody. Thank you for tuning into my video today. My name is Todd Standing. I'm the writer, director, producer of Discovering Bigfoot. I take people out to the field and have them either live interact with or eyewitness a Sasquatch. The discovery of Sasquatch is moving forward very significantly. Today, we're going to go through a really cool new video that was shot in Europe, allegedly. I'm going to do a little bit of analysis on that. And a lot of people have been asking the questions, so I'm going to get into it in a little more detail, talk about the court case, and most importantly, get into what I learned with the court case and what I learned working with different, a captain, Apache helicopter pilot that did border patrol in Washington State, and a colonel that I worked with who gave me a night vision that I used, that I had years and years ago, Generation 4 night vision, and the information that he had about the reality of Bigfoot, how the government absolutely knows they're real, Fish and Wildlife absolutely knows they're real at the top levels. And just this little bit of evidence I can give you will substantiate you to understand that this is a very, very factual reality. And what do we do from here? So besides my court case, besides fighting the government, trying to get them to recognize it. So let's get into that today. So multiple times in my documentary, you'll see this incredible piece of night vision equipment. I literally would tape it onto my camera, which was kind of funny. You can actually see the marks around my camera here where I would literally tape it with Gorilla Tape over this lens and then use cameras like this to film with that piece of night vision. It was Generation 4. I don't have it anymore. An extremely unpleasant person that I worked with for a short time stole it from me when this person realized the value of it was so significant, because I think they're just coming out with Generation 4 now. You need to understand, I've had that piece, that Generation 4 piece of night vision, which was unreal. You could literally see things in the nighttime better than you could see things in the daytime. It was that spectacular. And it was given me by a colonel from the United States military, I'll say. He still works for the military, and he's not really interested in this whole conspiracy regarding Sasquatch. He simply knows that the government knows they're real. And anyways, he saw my work as authentic. He saw the authenticity and the reality of my work, and he gave me that Generation 4, which is completely illegal. That was like law breaking. Oh my God, I could never take that. I never took that back to the United States. He came to Canada, had a couple meetings with me, gave me a lot of advice and told me a lot of really amazing things. And from there, I just took that Generation 4 night vision, and he gave it to me. You got to understand, from his perspective, at that time, this is probably at least a decade ago, like 10 years ago, which Generation 4 is just coming out to the public right now. We're at Generation 3, and it's just brand new, amazing technology. 10 years ago, it was a stinking, reeking piece of crap garbage to the American military. It was worthless. They were at like Generation 7, which was so infinitely superior to Generation 4. You can't quote me on this, but they were several generations ahead of Generation 4 at that time, and it was just garbage to him. And he thought, well, just don't come to the U.S. because the military has patents on it, and there would be legal ramifications. And I kept it. I didn't even use it until my documentary in 2017. I was never public with that piece of with that incredible piece of technology. But this colonel told me something I'm going to tell you right now. So back in the 70s, I think it was 1971 specifically, in one of the Pacific Northwestern states, a Sasquatch, a female Sasquatch, was actually, somebody had found her dying in a river. What happened was she'd eaten a fish, or a piece of a fish that had a hook in it, and that hook had gotten into her stomach, and it was killing her. She was dying. She had all sorts of bloating and stuff. It was chronically, she was dying. She was found like halfway in a river, nearly dead. Well, the surgery to repair her was very simple. So the military came in, At that time, this gentleman told me he was immensely involved in this. He was like running this operation. He found out in a big hurry they already knew all about Sasquatch, or they had significant knowledge of Sasquatch, but they wanted to do more research. So they actually had a compound that they took her to. This is what you need to know. This is what's so important, because it'll understand the final statement that he gave me of why Sasquatch is not publicly known, and the U.S. government doesn't want people to know about Sasquatch. So he had an incredible way of explaining it, which I'll get to. So what they did, though, is, so he was in charge of this, and in this compound there was, it's a big concrete military compound, and there are separate chambers. They had this female Sasquatch. She was operated on by top surgeons. They removed it, fixed her all up. It was really no problem. It was a very simple procedure. The surgeons had no trouble dealing with her because she's a hominid. Like, her anatomy is more similar to human beings than gorillas. Sasquatch are literally, by definition, at worst, I'll say a subspecies because I'm comfortable with that, but they've bred with humans and produced viable offspring, which makes them the same species. But I don't want to get into that right now. So the surgeons had no trouble fixing her up, and while she was recovering, what they noticed that was so significant, what he and other people on his team noticed, is at one side of the compound, people were preparing this female Sasquatch food. And as soon as that food was being prepared, she knew it was coming. She would literally be salivating, and she would get excited about the food, and then the food came to her, and she would eat it. So they thought they'd do a little experiment, because how does she know the food's coming? How does she know what food's coming? She would have food that she didn't really enjoy, and it was being made for her, and when it came to her, she would eat it, but reluctantly. It's like she knew the food was coming before it came. So they did an experiment. The lady who made the food, they gave her some rotten, nasty food and had her cut up. They literally have footage of the Sasquatch going, ugh, oh, I don't want to eat that. They literally were walking to the door, and the Sasquatch was like, I don't want it, I don't want it. Ugh. You couldn't even smell it. How did she know this food was there? And of course, this is at the time where the science of extrasensory perception was in its infancy. We now know telepathy is absolutely real. And at that time, through this information, they discovered beyond any reasonable doubt that the Sasquatch are not only telepathic and empathic, they're very powerfully so. So, he lost control of that whole situation when she healed up and she left. But I mean, these are profound things that they do. The military all over the world are doing remote viewing, and this is just a reality. Extrasensory perception it's out there. If you're not on board with that, get with the times, ladies and gentlemen. Universities are in the know with this. So, and they're the last ones when they start studying it and putting it out there. That's because this is concrete proof. So what he told me, he says, you better be sitting down. You better understand this very clearly. Extrasensory perception at this level with these beings is an enormous technological advantage. Enormous. Extremely advantageous to military. He said, let me tell you something. It was because of bats that radar was discovered in military, or in all forms of military, in different military organizations. They all kind of discovered radar approximately the same time. It was only discovered by bats. He told me, I'll tell you something. If the U.S. military, the Russian military, British military, if they had complete access to bats, and they could have killed every bat in the world to protect that highly advantageous piece of technology, don't you think they would have done that? And so he's there going, I'll tell you what Sasquatch can do, never mind the physical incredible abilities they have, but this enormous technological advantage, well, not even technological, it's a biological advantage that can be turned into a technology. He said if they could kill every Sasquatch in the world, they would. They'd annihilate the species. However, they're clearly all over the place, all the way into Australia, the Yowie, through China and up into Russia. So all they do is they keep it under wraps as best they can. Basically, first, because of that one piece of information, it's just going to change everything, which is why my research has become so important. This isn't just about a new primate to be discovered. This is immensely important it'll change the world. It has to. I mean, it's so enormous. And the more time I spend around Sasquatch, the more time I do the inner work and I work on my extrasensory perception, I realize how this will just change humanity in an enormous way, because we're all capable of this. The Sasquatch are just really, really good at it. So what I'll get into now, so I've fought hard for this court case. There's been a lot of speculation about what's gone on with it. So I'll give you, because the court case that I did, which I can do again, and I may very well do again when the time is right and if it's appropriate. But what I learned from this court case, so have a watch for this video, and I'll come back and tell you the most important little simple thing that I learned that you can even do if you want to try, to show you that Fish and Wildlife absolutely know the species exists, and you can figure this out with a simple phone call. And then after that, we'll get into the video footage that I have today.
Todd, appreciate you taking some time for us here today. Can you tell us how this lawsuit came about?
Well, it's been over 12 years I've been going to Fish and Wildlife and telling them, you know, here's evidence, here's video footage, these are Sasquatch, come out with me in the field and I will show you a Sasquatch. And for over a decade they've been denying me that, and this is in Alberta, British Columbia, Montana, Washington, and California. Those states and provinces, Fish and Wildlife, will not come out with me and will not allow me to show them a Sasquatch. So now I'm suing them, starting in British Columbia, for dereliction of duty. This is a wildlife species. It's their job. They have to take responsibility for it, and I'm suing them for not. Just the same way you'd sue a police officer who's not enforcing the law when it's his job to do so. I don't want to hear excuses. It's their job. Enforce the law. Media like yourself go around and do stories when police officers or fishery officers eyewitness a Sasquatch, and Fish and Wildlife doesn't show up. They don't do anything. The incident with the police officer in northern British Columbia, he didn't know what to do. He was there twice, scaring off a Sasquatch, and that's not his job. It's a wildlife issue. Where was Fish and Wildlife? And I'll tell you where. They were nowhere, doing nothing. That's what they do when it comes to Sasquatch.
And so you say you have evidence beyond reasonable doubt that Sasquatch exists. Can you tell us a bit about that evidence?
I have every piece of evidence. I have DNA, I have forensic evidence, I have eyewitness testimony from professors and engineers, doctors, PhDs, people that have absolutely unequivocally seen the species, DNA that is undeniable from multiple sources. I mean, if this was a murder trial, the person being charged with murder is going to jail for sure. Like, this is an ocean of evidence, and if this goes to trial, which is what they don't want, which is the difficulty to get it to go to trial, but if it goes to trial, I'll win. The problem is we need some sort of precedent case study to show the judge that this sort of lawsuit has gone to trial before, and that's what's really difficult. We're trying to compare ourselves to civil allegations and tobacco companies, and it's hard to make that connection so a judge can let this go to court, because he doesn't care how much evidence we have. He just needs to see a precedent, and that's what the difficulty is right now.
And so what is a successful outcome for you in this lawsuit?
When I win, I will have proven that Sasquatch is real, A, and therefore Fish and Wildlife are derelict in their duty, B, and the outcome will be I'm going to ask them to go on a 3-month ecological survey with me into the wilderness in British Columbia or Alberta or Montana, wherever it is, and I will show them everything they need to know about a Sasquatch to begin the appropriate biological study and acknowledgement of this species.
And Todd, do you know when this is coming back to court?
Well, the judge is going to render a decision, and we'll see what happens after that. But no matter, if he lets it go to trial, I'll win the trial. If he doesn't let it go to trial, we'll find a new way, or I'll go to Alberta, or actually California's next. The law there has been much more agreeable than it has here in Canada, and we'll go give California a try.
Well, Todd, it's quite a case, and one we will most certainly be following. I appreciate you taking some time for us this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So there's some specifics about the court case. The court case never went to trial, and I was kind of okay with that, because Fish and Wildlife told me right straight they were just gonna bury me in paperwork for years, cost me hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in wasted time, because they never want this to ever go to trial. Like, the lawyer's literally telling me, like, I'm 40 and I don't want it to go to trial in my lifetime, in my career, and my job will be to delay you for 20 years, and I think I can do it. I'm going to find new ways and just fight this and delay, because he knew damn well if I took it to court, I would smoke them. But this is what's so important. You really got to know this, and this is the experiment you can do, is Fish and Wildlife. This would have actually went to trial. So I have, the legal term is standing. I have to, not that I'm Todd standing, the legal term is you need standing to go to trial. And my standing was that I take people out and show them Sasquatch. I know Sasquatch is real. I'm a Sasquatch researcher. That's my job. So them going around saying Sasquatch isn't real is damaging my career, right? Wrong. They don't say that. If you ever phone Fish and Wildlife, and I'm talking Alberta and British Columbia and Canada, and then it was Montana, Washington State, and California. If you call Fish and Wildlife and you ask them, is Sasquatch real? If they say no, you can sue them. Because if you say Sasquatch is real and you want to go make a living being a Sasquatch researcher like me, you'd have the ability to sue them, because it's a defamation of character against you. They're calling you a liar. And if that's your livelihood, they can't do that. But they won't do that. Call Fish and Wildlife and see what they say. It was like when my lawyer taught me this, it blew my mind, and I did the experiment as well. I called Oregon, California, Washington, Idaho. I called them all. I told them who I was, told them I could show them Sasquatch in their own home state / province. And I said, Sasquatch is real, and let me come out there and show you. And then they just sit there and go, no, 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 no. And I go, are Sasquatch real? And every single time they say, no comment. And to get them to speak on record about it, good luck. And this is not universal. If you ask them if unicorns are real, they go, there's no such thing as unicorns. We're not investigating that. But what about a Sasquatch? Hey, I see a Sasquatch over here. Can you come do some research on it? Hey, does Sasquatch exist? Or no comment. It's powerful stuff, guys. I know for some of you that might be, but you can literally do that experiment. Call Fish and Wildlife and they'll go on record. There's no such thing as unicorns. Unicorns aren't real. There's no such thing as Loch Ness here. Like, there'll be a dozen things that they'll talk about. Maybe not aliens, but let's not get into that. Let's stay, because I'm not a paranormal researcher. I'm a Sasquatch researcher, and for me, there's an enormous difference. I don't do other stuff, Loch Ness, Ogopogo, aliens. It's not what I do at all. I specifically do Sasquatch. The same way a bear researcher or a deer researcher, they focus on those specific species. This is precisely what I do, and it's not paranormal to me. So that's an absolute truth. Now, let's have a look at this video from Europe. I think it's a new video. Of course, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments, because I don't know the backstory behind it. But let's get into some information. Let's talk about this interesting video that I've just recently come across on the internet. This is allegedly filmed in Poland. I even heard Warsaw. This is a bouldery area. This is the video as it plays originally. I'll let you have a real decent look at it. Zoomed in as best I can here. And this is the end right here. So now here it is, slowed down significantly. First kind of red flag I can see is the odd leg body proportion. Look at how the leg gets small right there. The right leg. The movement of it, is it injured? Why is it moving so slow? And what we should be looking for is something athletic that a human being can't do, some proportion that shows us it can't be human, or some piece of forensic evidence that this person would have had to have gone and retrieved themselves by either a track or hair of some sort. And obviously we don't have anything like that, because at this point, so the shaky camera I can forgive, because people get a little weirded out when they see something like this. And then we get to the end and there's some funny looking heads here. The body proportion was off quite a few times. See, now the head's looking strange. And then we see that arm there. Lots of shaky footage. The head looks kind of pointy, then it looks kind of square. Body proportions are odd, and that's it. These videos are interesting. There was one time in my life, where I saw a grainy Sasquatch video that looked interesting to me, more interesting than this one even. I went out there, boots on the ground. I saw Sasquatch tracks, the Sasquatch ducked down to go under a tree and smash the ground. So I saw the physical evidence. Then I went back and looked at the video some more, and I was able to see other things that helps. It's like the eyes were blinking, that helped substantiate. I wouldn't even be able to go through this. It's so blurry. I forgive stuff like when it gets shaky, because what'll happen is with anybody, I think, is you're filming it and then you look, because it's a Sasquatch if you're legitimately having an encounter. So you forget about your camera for a second, you look and you come back and you look. So I forgive that shakiness. That's kind of just something that somebody who doesn't have any experience is going to make those kind of mistakes. But there's this Sasquatch is not moving anatomically impressive at all. Right when the Sasquatch is about to take a step where I could see if it's moving anatomically like a Sasquatch, that doesn't happen. And where do we go from this? Even this is not going to be good evidence. It's really up to whoever filmed this to get out there, do some research. Are there Sasquatch in Poland? Is there a history of Sasquatch in Poland? These are questions I just have no answer to whatsoever. If there is a Sasquatch out there, they have to have a breeding population. There's been Sasquatch around, so there's going to be other signs of evidence and whatnot, and we need all that to help substantiate that. So where do we start with this, though? If this is really a Sasquatch, which I don't think it is, I don't see anything to really make me go, wow, it's a Sasquatch. Even it's so blurry, it could just be a terrible costume. Like this could be a $200 costume that's just not significant at all. So the evidence is not nearly enough. But if it is a real Sasquatch, I'd be very excited about that, and I would encourage this researcher, this person, probably not even a researcher, just to pass it off to other people, to push forward with honestly saying, I really saw a Sasquatch, show people, get help from other people that can assist you, and maybe this grows into something very significant where there are indeed Sasquatch in Europe, which would make me very happy. So that's all I have to say about this video. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Lots more to come. There's stuff on Saturday, stuff on Sunday, and my live show on Wednesday. Really appreciate you supporting this discovery process moving forward, because the discovery of Bigfoot / Sasquatch is happening. My movie is called Discovering Bigfoot, and that discovery is happening, period. With or without science, with or without pop culture, it makes no difference. Me and multiple individuals that help me are moving forward with this discovery process, and it is happening right here, right now. Get excited about it, because the end is near.